Trail cameras are used primarily for wildlife monitoring and surveillance. They are designed to capture photos and videos of animals or humans passing by the camera's sensor. Trail cameras are often used by landowners, researchers, and wildlife enthusiasts to observe animal behavior, track animal movements, and identify potential hunting areas. They are also used for home security and surveillance, capturing footage of intruders or suspicious activity around a property. They are often equipped with motion sensors and can send alerts to the owner's phone or email when triggered. Interestingly, this landowner noticed something strange on their trail camera, saying that it appears to be a large humanoid. They submitted the footage to social media and wanted people's opinions on it. Those who saw the footage said that it looks like a large humanoid and matches typical descriptions of creatures that have been sighted throughout North America. Oddly enough, more and more trail cam owners are coming forward with footage like this, saying that many of the humanoids look like large, hairy, ape-like creatures, standing between 6 to 10 feet tall and weighing between 4 to 800 pounds. Trail cam owners also report a strong, unpleasant odor in the surrounding area, with them saying that this is direct evidence to support its existence. One user said the following about the footage. "I happen to think the creature is real, and I know several hunters who've encountered these creatures in the wilderness. The hard thing is to capture one of them on camera. They're elusive, but there's plenty of them throughout the Pacific Northwest region of North America. Due to the dense forests, it's incredibly hard to see them. For example, I've had friends say that one could be standing within 10 feet of you, and because of how thick the trees are, you'd never know they were there." End quote. As of right now, there's still an ongoing debate as to what these creatures are and where they're coming from. Skeptics have said that trail cam owners are just capturing everyday wildlife such as bears, but not everyone agrees with this statement and have said that they believe there's a small community of these creatures living throughout the United States. As technology continues to develop, they believe that it's only a matter of time before high-quality footage is captured of them. All across North America are reported sightings of the Sasquatch creature, a massive bipedal humanoid giant covered in hair from head to toe and commonly encountered within or nearby the untamed woods and landscapes found all across the United States and Canada. Oddly enough, not every state or local area across North America refers to the creature as Bigfoot. More commonly, local legends will feature similar descriptions of this creature, but with slight variations in its design alongside differing names. One of these is that of the mysterious Oceania monster. Descriptions of the Oceania monster often overlap with typical sightings of Sasquatch-like creatures. It's commonly accepted that the Oceania monster is a large humanoid-type creature, and so the reports of the creature are often lumped together with general Bigfoot reports made around the United States. However, the average sightings of the Oceania monster are typically only reported around the town of Oceania located within the state of West Virginia, and add the atypical description that the creature is different from average sightings due to its scream that has often been compared to the hideous yell of a baby crying or cats fighting. The typical descriptions of the Oceania monster claim it to stand at a height of approximately 7 to 8 feet, covered from head to toe in long, dark hair, and has the ability to jump long distances. Although witness encounters of the Oceania monster have been few and not recent, it's believed that the Oceania monster could have been a member of the species that traveled too close to the small town of Oceania and resided within the nearby mountainsides. The original Oceania monster encounter. Located within the state of West Virginia, the small coal mining town of Oceania was at the center of economic devastation during the rise of the Wyoming coal mines during the late 1970s, early 1980s. This economic devastation led to a general feeling of anxiety for many of the town's residents, causing a sharp increase in reports surrounding strange sightings and otherworldly encounters, though often dismissed by the local police station. It was not until the August 14th, back in 1978, that the reports of otherworldly encounters would be treated more seriously by the Ocean Police Department. According to the written account of Officer Patrolman Bill Pritt, he would directly have an encounter with a large humanoid-like entity, later referred to as the Oceania monster. The witness report claims that while Patrolman Pitt was working between the early hours of 7 in the evening and 7 in the morning, he had received a call from the police dispatcher claiming that neighbors could hear the sound of a baby screaming in the night. Taking the call, Officer Bill Pritt traveled to the neighborhood located near the Oceania Town Hall and turned onto Monroe Street in the general direction of the call's origin. Approaching the closest home, a small mobile home located at the edge of Monroe Street, he spoke with the homeowner who claimed to have heard the sound of screaming, but that it was definitely unlike anything human, comparing it to a hideous scream that frightened him into his home. After talking to another resident of the home, who claimed that the sound of the screaming could have come from a group of wild cats fighting, the officer began searching the area for fur marks to have provided evidence for such a claim. Unable to find anything, the officer went to approach another nearby home when he suddenly heard what he described as a hideous echoing squall emanating from down the street. Immediately, Patrolman Pritt entered his police cruiser and drove down the street headed towards the Clear Fork River to investigate, believing that the screaming could have been coming from a homeless man. As the officer was driving down the street, he noticed the silhouette of a person standing underneath a street light at the corner of Monroe Street and Willow Avenue. Exiting his car, he called to the man who appeared to be doubled over in pain and screaming the inhuman scream. As he called to the man, he noticed the person slowly stand at full height, rising to a standing position and turning to face him. It was at this moment that the patrolman realized that the man underneath the streetlight was actually an inhuman humanoid bipedal creature, covered from head to toe in dark hair and standing at a height of over 7 feet tall. Suddenly, the creature screamed again and began running towards the officer in a menacing fashion, as if preparing to attack the officer in the middle of the street. Fearing for his life, the officer pulled out his service weapon and loaded one round into the belly of the monster. The creature stopped abruptly, then quickly turned around and began to run away in the opposite direction of the officer without any noticeable injury of any kind, heading down Monroe Street towards the Clear Fork River. Patrolman Bill Pritt, who was now in a state of shock, ran to his vehicle and radioed to dispatch, requesting additional backup for his location on the corner next to the Johnny Aliff residence. Immediately thereafter, Officer Pritt jumped back into his police cruiser and began following the creature, relaying his position over the radio, and he pursued the creature. Spotting it once more at the bank of the river, the officer exited his vehicle and began to chase the creature on foot when he noticed that it was already standing on the opposite side of the bank. At first, the officer was confused how the creature had already crossed the river, given that he heard no splashing, and it appeared as if the creature was completely dry. On later recollection, the officer claimed that the creature must have swam the length of the river in less than 30 seconds, as it would have been impossible to have jumped across the length of the river, which totaled roughly 60 to 75 feet in width. Fearing that the creature would get away, Officer Pritt fired at the monster several more times until he unloaded his entire chamber on the creature, who appeared to be standing at the side of the riverbank staring back at the officer. A nearby officer, Chief Raymond Walker, was the first to respond to Officer Pritt's radio to the police dispatch requiring immediate reinforcements, though was unable to get any follow-up information on what the cause for the request for additional reinforcements was about. Beginning to fear for the worst, Chief Raymond Walker began driving 80 miles per hour to reach Officer Pritt's as soon as possible. Once approaching the area of Monroe Street, Chief Raymond Walker could hear the shots from Pritt's revolver, claiming that the encounter sounded like a full-on firefight down by the riverbank. Without hesitation, Chief Raymond Walker drove up to the bank, exited his vehicle, and ran down to where Officer Pritt was standing, reportedly seeing the officer dry firing his weapon in a direction towards some brush across the riverbank. When the chief asked Pritt what was going on, the officer replied that there was a monster on the other side of the bank and to fire at it. It was at this moment that the chief claimed to have seen the brush begin to move and a large creature standing at the other side of the river. Unsure of what the creature could have been, the chief fired 4 warning shots into the air. The sound of the assault rifle sent the creature running up the mountainside and disappearing from view. Once gone, the chief led Patrolman Pritt back to his vehicle and attempted to cover up the incident to prevent people from asking too many questions. However, by 6:38 in the morning, citizens began investigating the matter on their own, looking for evidence of the creature as some of the nearby residents had heard the screams and seen the encounter. By 7 in the morning, citizens had gathered evidence by taking photos of trampled weeds, broken branches, and a large footprint in the mud along the riverbank that was far larger and awkwardly shaped to have been a human foot, though looked unlike any other known animal in the region. Even more startling, Many of the citizens claimed to hear the continued screams of the creature way off in the distance up on the nearby mountainside. Shortly after the sighting of the creature, reported by Patrolman Bill Pritt and Chief Raymond Walker, the West Virginia Department of Natural Resources soon became involved in a formal investigation into the claims of the humanoid ape-like creature residing within the nearby swamplands. However, rather than attempt to confirm the sighting of the creature, the wildlife experts were instructed to disprove the encounter as nothing more than a case of hysteria, with many of the investigators claiming that the creature was nothing more than a large bird. As the West Virginia Department of Natural Resources combed the area, they were unable to find any supporting evidence for the claim of the creature to have been a large book with no evidence of blood or feathers anywhere surrounding the area. Following their investigation, a man by the name of James Cosort, a local citizen who had a bachelor's degree in social studies from the University of Concord, led his own personal investigation into the encounter. After traveling to the side of the riverbank, James Cosart began collecting several photographs of the scene to try to piece together the movement of the creature through the surrounding brush. Once all of his evidence had been gathered, the following night, Cosart offered to join Patrolman Pritt on a ride along throughout the area to see if the creature would return again on the following night. As they spent a 12-hour shift together, talking and handling several minor incidents, the creature failed to return. Volcanoes are classified based on their size, activity level, and potential impact on their surroundings. There are two main types of volcanoes: stratovolcanoes, also known as composite volcanoes, and shield volcanoes. However, supervolcanoes are a special type of volcano that are much larger and more powerful than either of these. Normal volcanoes can range in size from just a few hundred meters to several kilometers in height. In contrast, supervolcanoes are much larger, with a caldera that can be tens of kilometers wide. Normal volcanoes can erupt relatively frequently, sometimes several times a year or even more often. In contrast, supervolcanoes have much longer intervals between eruptions, typically on the scale of tens or hundreds of thousands of years. While normal volcanic eruptions can be devastating to the surrounding area, they are generally much smaller than supervolcanic eruptions. A supervolcano eruption is typically considered to be one that releases at least 1,000 cubic kilometers of material, which is more than 100 times the volume of material released by the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. Normal volcanoes typically erupt with magma that is rich in silica and other minerals, which makes it very viscous and prone to explosive eruptions. In contrast, supervolcanoes typically erupt with magma that is much less viscous and more fluid, which allows it to flow over a much wider area. A normal volcanic eruption can have devastating impacts on the surrounding area, including destruction of property and loss of life. However, a supervolcanic eruption can have impacts that are felt around the world, including global cooling due to ash and gas released into the atmosphere, which can have a significant impact on global climate and agriculture. Scientists have just warned that supervolcanoes are currently our biggest threat and that they have the ability to devastate modern society. Michael Cassidy, a professor of volcanology at the University of Birmingham, said the following: "Over the next century, large-scale volcanic eruptions are hundreds of times more likely to occur than our asteroid and comet impacts put together." End quote. This recent announcement comes after scientists were studying asteroids and our planetary defense and revealed that we are doing very little in regards to supervolcanoes. The researchers have also noted that the human population has massively increased since the last supervolcano eruption, further noting that increased human activity in volcanic areas, such as mining and geothermal power production, can sometimes trigger small to moderate eruptions. The researchers involved in the study said they came to this conclusion after looking at planetary defense systems around the world. Governments and global agencies spend varying amounts on planetary defense initiatives depending on their priorities and available resources. The main focus of planetary defense is to identify, track, and potentially mitigate the impact of near-Earth objects, such as asteroids and comets, that could pose a threat to the planet. The largest funder of planetary defense initiatives is currently NASA, which has an annual budget of around $150 million for its Planetary Defense Coordination Office. This office is responsible for leading NASA's efforts to detect and characterize potentially hazardous near-Earth objects, as well as developing and testing strategies to deflect or destroy them if necessary. Other countries and organizations also contribute to planetary defense efforts, but the funding amounts vary widely. For example, the European Space Agency has an annual budget of around $15 million for its Space Situational Awareness program, which includes near-Earth object detection and tracking. Rather worryingly, it was during this study that researchers said that there's very little we can do when it comes to supervolcanoes. Supervolcanoes are considered to be one of the most dangerous natural disasters that could occur on Earth. A supervolcano eruption is an incredibly powerful explosion that can release thousands of times more energy than a regular volcanic eruption, and the amount of energy released is enough to cover an entire continent with ash, leading to global impacts. One of these eruptions can release an enormous amount of ash into the atmosphere, which can block out the sun for weeks, months, or even years. This can cause global cooling, which can impact agriculture and cause food shortages. The ash released during a supervolcano eruption can also combine with water vapor in the atmosphere, leading to the production of acid rain. This can damage crops, forests, and water supplies. A supervolcano eruption can also release pyroclastic flows, which are fast-moving currents of hot gas and volcanic matter. And these flows can reach speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour and can incinerate everything in their path. A supervolcano eruption can trigger tsunamis that can cause massive destruction along coastlines. The displacement of large volumes of water can lead to huge waves that can travel thousands of kilometers across oceans. The effects of a supervolcano eruption can be felt around the world. The release of ash, gases, and other materials into the atmosphere can impact climate, leading to global cooling, changes in rainfall patterns, and other effects. At this moment in time, researchers involved in these studies have said that a supervolcano eruption is incredibly dangerous due to its massive explosions, large ash clouds, acid rain, pyroclastic flows, tsunamis, and global impacts. While these eruptions are rare, they've noted that the most famous supervolcano that is considered potentially active is the Yellowstone caldera in the United States, which last erupted approximately 640,000 years ago. Scientists have said that one of the most worrying outcomes after the eruption of a supervolcano would be the significant impact it would have on agriculture. The primary impact would come from the ash cloud that would be produced during the eruption. This ash cloud would block out sunlight, leading to a drop in temperature and reduced photosynthesis in plants. This would result in a decrease in crop yields and could potentially lead to famine and food shortages. In addition to the ash cloud, the eruption could also release large amounts of sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. This gas can combine with water vapor to form sulfuric acid, which can fall to the ground as acid rain. Acid rain can damage crops and make soil less fertile, further reducing crop yields. The eruption of a supervolcano could also have long-term effects on agriculture, with researchers saying that the ash and other volcanic materials that are deposited on the ground would alter the chemical composition of the soil, making it less fertile. The volcanic ash can also release nutrients into the soil, which can lead to an initial boost in plant growth, but can also lead to nutrient depletion over time. The last time a supervolcano erupted was approximately 26,500 years ago, when the Taupo volcano in New Zealand erupted. This eruption was classified as an 8 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index, which is the highest level on the index, with scientists saying that it produced more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of ash and volcanic material. The eruption was so powerful that it created a large caldera or collapsed volcanic crater, which is now filled with water and known as Lake Taupo. Another notable supervolcano eruption occurred approximately 74,000 years ago when the Toba caldera in Indonesia erupted. This eruption produced an estimated 2,800 cubic kilometers of ash and volcanic material, which blanketed much of India and Southeast Asia. The eruption is believed to have had significant global consequences, including a potential cooling effect on the Earth's climate and a genetic bottleneck in human evolution. It is important to note that supervolcano eruptions are relatively rare events and can occur on timescales of hundreds of thousands to millions of years. The bottleneck effect is a genetic phenomenon that occurs when a population is drastically reduced in size, leading to a significant loss of genetic diversity. This can happen due to a number of reasons, such as natural disasters, diseases, or human-driven factors, such as overhunting or habitat destruction. In the context of human evolution, the bottleneck effect refers to the theory that modern humans descended from a small group of our ancestors who survived a population bottleneck event around 70,000 years ago. This bottleneck event has been attributed to a number of factors, including a massive volcanic eruption in Sumatra, Indonesia, which caused a global climate shift and led to a severe reduction in human population size. As a result of this bottleneck event, the genetic diversity of the human population was greatly reduced, which means that many genetic variations that had been present in our ancestors were lost. This loss of genetic diversity is thought to have had a number of important effects on human evolution, including making us more susceptible to certain diseases and reducing our ability to adapt to changing environmental conditions. Despite the reduction in genetic diversity caused by the bottleneck event, some genetic variations were still present in the surviving population. Over time, these variations became more common as the human population grew and diversified, leading to the genetic diversity that we see in modern humans today. The supervolcano that most are worried about is Yellowstone, which is located in northwestern Wyoming. If the Yellowstone supervolcano were to erupt, it would have catastrophic effects not just for the local region, but potentially for the entire planet. First, the eruption would likely be much more explosive and violent than a typical volcanic eruption. The initial blast could send ash, gas, and debris tens of thousands of feet into the atmosphere, causing a massive ash cloud to form. This ash cloud could spread across the United States and even circle the globe within a matter of weeks or months, blocking out sunlight and reducing temperatures worldwide. The ash cloud could also trigger a nuclear winter effect, with the reduced sunlight causing a drop in global temperatures and disrupting weather patterns. This could lead to crop failures and food shortages, as well as a range of other environmental and societal impacts. Closer to the eruption site, the ash and debris from the blast could cause widespread devastation. Buildings, roads, and other infrastructure could be buried under several feet of ash, and local communities could be cut off from the outside world for weeks or even months. The explosion could trigger massive mudslides and landslides, and ash fall could pollute water supplies, making them unsafe to drink. In the long term, the Yellowstone eruption could have even more serious consequences. The ash cloud and subsequent nuclear winter could trigger a mass extinction event, wiping out entire species of plants and animals. The eruption could also lead to a long-term cooling trend with global temperatures dropping and climate patterns shifting. Overall, an eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano would be a global catastrophe with far-reaching and long-lasting consequences for the planet and all its inhabitants. Yellowstone National Park, in collaboration with the U.S. Geological Survey, closely monitors the Yellowstone supervolcano for any changes in behavior that could indicate an impending eruption. The park has an extensive network of monitoring stations that continuously measure and record data on earthquake activity, ground deformation, gas emissions, and other indicators of volcanic activity. The USGS also maintains a Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, which is responsible for monitoring and studying the volcano. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory uses a variety of tools, including seismometers, GPS instruments, and satellite imagery to track changes in the volcano's behavior. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory also works closely with other agencies, such as the National Park Service and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to ensure that plans are in place to respond to a potential eruption. In addition to monitoring the volcano, the park and its partners conduct extensive research on the geology, ecology, and hydrology of the region. This research provides important insights into the processes that drive volcanic activity and helps scientists better understand the potential hazards associated with the Yellowstone supervolcano. The park and its partners also engage in outreach and education programs to help the public better understand the risks and potential impacts of a volcanic eruption. Back in December 2022, a copy of the Torah was seized by officials in Turkey. The team said they received a tip that the manuscript was going up for sale and so quickly moved in to retrieve the artifact before it was sold. The manuscript was expected to make around $1,500,000. And it's because of this that officials have said that these underground networks are working harder than ever to find these types of manuscripts. Diggers are being hired to excavate across various regions throughout the Middle East in the hopes that they come across under these biblical artifacts. In the past, they've been sold for $1 million to private investors. During the interrogation at the District Gendarmerie Command, The officers reported that the manuscript had been transported from Istanbul to the district of Giresun. One user on social media said that they were able to translate it and said that judging by the pages and texts used, it's around 700 to 900 years old. It's likely that investigations will be carried out on the book in order to make sure that it's genuine. And if it is, it will likely be placed away in storage, or may even end up in a museum. Biblical artifacts are objects that have a direct connection to the Bible, its stories, and its characters. They can include ancient scrolls, fragments of pottery, inscriptions, coins, and other items that are mentioned in the Bible, or shed light on the context in which the Bible was written. These artifacts are an essential part of the world's cultural and religious heritage, and they provide valuable insights into the history, society, and culture of the biblical era. Protecting biblical artifacts is important for several reasons. They offer a glimpse into the history of the people and cultures that existed during the time of the Bible. They are valuable sources of information for scholars, researchers, and historians who seek to understand the past and how it has influenced our present. Biblical artifacts can provide insights into the religious beliefs and practices of the people of the time, as well as the evolution of religious thought and practice over time. They help us understand the context in which the Bible was written and the beliefs of those who wrote it. The Bible has had a profound impact on Western civilization and is a foundational text for many cultures and societies. Biblical artifacts are an important part of our shared cultural heritage and can help us connect to the past and our collective history. Many of these artifacts are legally protected by national and international laws, as well as ethical guidelines established by organizations such as the International Council of Museums. These laws and guidelines are in place to prevent the theft, looting, and illicit trade of cultural property, which can have devastating effects on local communities and the preservation of cultural heritage. For many people of faith, biblical artifacts hold great religious significance and are considered sacred objects. Protecting these artifacts is therefore a matter of respecting and honoring religious beliefs and practices. The Torah, the book that we just previously covered that was found in Turkey, is the central text of Judaism, and it is also considered the foundational text of the Abrahamic religions. It is composed of 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, which together tell the story of the creation of the world, the history of the Jewish people, and the giving of the law at Mount Sinai. The word Torah comes from the Hebrew word meaning instruction or teaching, and the text is believed to have been revealed by God to Moses on Mount Sinai around 3,300 years ago. According to Jewish tradition, the Torah was given to Moses in both written and oral form, and it was passed down through generations of scholars and teachers before being compiled into its final written form. Each of the 5 books of the Torah has a different focus and theme. The book of Genesis tells the story of the creation of the world, as well as the history of the patriarchs and matriarchs of the Jewish people, including Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. The book of Exodus tells the story of the Israelites' enslavement in Egypt and their miraculous escape led by Moses. It also includes the giving of the 10 Commandments and other laws at Mount Sinai. The book of Leviticus contains a detailed system of laws and rituals governing the religious and social life of the Israelites, including rules for sacrifice, purity, and the role of priests. The book of Numbers includes a census of the Israelites and their journey through the wilderness towards the Promised Land, as well as various laws and rituals. The book of Deuteronomy contains a series of speeches given by Moses to the Israelites before they enter the Promised Land, including a restatement of the law and various blessings and curses. The Torah is a foundational text for Jewish theology, law, and practice, and it continues to be studied and revered by Jews around the world. Its teachings have also had a profound influence on Western civilization as a whole, shaping the beliefs and practices of Christianity and Islam as well. Mount Sinai, also known as Mount Horeb, is a mountain located in the Sinai Peninsula of Egypt. It is a significant location in Abrahamic religions, particularly Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. According to the Bible, Mount Sinai is where Moses received the 10 Commandments from God. The mountain is also associated with other important events, including the burning bush that Moses encountered and the place where Elijah received the word of God. In Islam, it is believed that the prophet Moses received the revelations of the Quran on the mountain. Mount Sinai is a relatively small mountain, standing at approximately 2,285 meters or 7,500 feet. It is part of a larger mountain range that runs through the Sinai Peninsula. The mountain is characterized by its rugged, rocky terrain and is often covered in snow during the winter months. The mountain is accessible by foot, and there are several routes to reach the summit. The most popular route is the traditional Saket El Bahite path, which starts from the monastery of St. Catherine and takes approximately 3 to 4 hours to reach the summit. There is also a camel trail that can be used to reach the summit. The summit of Mount Sinai offers spectacular views of the surrounding desert landscape. At the top, visitors can find a small chapel that was built in the 6th century by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian. The chapel is called the Chapel of the Holy Trinity and is an important pilgrimage site for Christians. Overall, Mount Sinai is an important religious and cultural site that holds significant historical and spiritual importance for people of many faiths. The Bible appears to contain coded messages. In 1997, Michael Drosnin, a reporter, published the book, The Bible Code. His book discussed some mysteries surrounding the Bible and that it held predictions for historical events, such as the assassination of the Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin or several comet collisions. Drosnin discussed numerous other theories about how the Bible could predict world-shaping events that happened in his other books within the series. Drosnin was not the only theorist of the secrets of the Bible, but he drew inspiration from a book published in 1994 called Equidistant Letter Sequences in the Book of Genesis by mathematicians Doran Whitstone, Elijah Rips, and Joao Rosenberg. They argued and presented evidence that the Bible had hidden information and discussed famous rabbis of the past. The method they used to discover these hidden codes and messages is called the equidistant letter sequence. How the technique works is that you pick a starting point in the text, or in this case the Bible, and then skip a number while selecting letters and skipping the same number of spaces every time. The words selected will sometimes create a word. It may sound confusing, but ELS is efficient if the letters of the text are arranged in an array like they are in the Bible. Timothy Smith is one of the most recent experts to claim that secret messages are hidden within the Bible. His theory derives from using a computer-driven application of the ELS method and his own knowledge to uncover hidden messages. His work is called the Leningrad Codex. That being said, his work has been labeled as biased as Smith is a Christian, and all the conclusions he discovered are related to the religion. At this point, there is no clear evidence that the Bible has hidden messages, but experts are constantly working to unravel any mystery that shrouds the most famous book in the world. Padre Pio, also known as Saint Pio of Pietrelcina, was an Italian Catholic priest and mystic who lived from 1887 to 1968. He is known for his deep devotion to God, his piety, and his supernatural gifts, including stigmata, the ability to read souls, and the gift of bilocation. Padre Pio was born Francesco Forgione in the small town of Pietrelcina, Italy. As a child, he was deeply religious and often experienced visions of Jesus and the Virgin Mary. At the age of 15, he entered the Capuchin order and took the name Pio. He was ordained a priest in 1910. In 1918, received the stigmata or wounds of Christ on his hands, feet, and side. He experienced intense pain and bleeding from these wounds for the rest of his life, but considered them a great honor and a sign of God's love. Padre Pio also had the gift of bilocation, which means he could be in two places at once. He was known to appear to people in need, both physically and spiritually, and offered them comfort and guidance. Padre Pio was also known for his ability to read souls. He could sense people's sins and offer them absolution and advice on how to live a more spiritual life. Throughout his life, Padre Pio performed many miracles, including healing the sick. He also founded the House for the Relief of Suffering, a hospital that still operates today. Padre Pio passed away in 1968 at the age of 81. He was canonized by Pope John Paul II in February 2nd and is celebrated as a saint in the Catholic Church. His legacy continues to inspire people all over the world. Padre Pio was known to have had many mystical experiences and visions throughout his life. One of the most well-known visions occurred in 1918 while he was praying in his cell. According to accounts, he experienced a vision of Jesus Christ and received the stigmata or wounds of Christ in his hands, feet, and side. Padre Pio also reported experiencing many other visions and mystical encounters throughout his life and was known for his gift of spiritual discernment and ability to read the hearts of others. One such vision came from Jesus himself, which would cause Padre Pio to write a letter in 1959 describing what Jesus had said to him. He said that Jesus revealed these 12 messages to him about the end of the world. The world is walking in ruins. Men have abandoned the right path to venture on roads that end in the desert of violence. If they do not drink from the source of humility, charity, and love, it will be a catastrophe. Terrible things will come. I can no longer intercede for men. Divine piety is about to end. Man had been created to love life and ended up destroying life. When the world was entrusted to man, it was a garden. Man has turned it into an atmosphere full of poisons. Nothing now serves to purify the house of man. A deep work is necessary, which can only come from heaven. Prepare to live 3 days in total darkness. These 3 days are very close, and in these days they will remain as dead without eating or drinking. Then the light will return. But many will be the men who will not see it anymore. Many people will escape scared. It will run without a goal. They will say that there is salvation to the east, and people will run to the east, but it will fall on a cliff. They will say that to the west there is salvation, and people will run to the west, but they will fall into a furnace. The earth will tremble, and the panic will be great. The earth is sick. The earthquake will be like a snake. They will feel it crawling everywhere, and many stones will fall, and many men will perish. You are like ants, because the time will come when men will take their eyes off for a crumb of bread. Businesses will be looted. Warehouses will be taken in assault and destroyed. Poor will be one who in those dark days will be without a candle, without a jug of water, and without the necessary for 3 months. A land will disappear, a great land. A country will be erased forever from geographical maps, and with it history, wealth, and men will be dragged into the mud. The love of man for man has become an empty word. How can you expect Jesus to love you if you do not even love those who eat at your own table? Of the wrath of God, men of science will not be forgiven, but men of heart. I'm desperate. I do not know what to do for humanity to repent. If you continue on this path, the tremendous wrath of God will be unleashed like a tremendous thunderbolt. A meteorite will fall on the earth, and everything will shine. It will be a disaster much worse than a war. Many things will be cancelled, and this will be one of the signs. Men will live a tragic experience. Many will be overwhelmed by the river. Many will be burned by fire. Many will be buried by poisons. But I will stay close to the pure of heart. Jesus did speak about the need for humans to change their ways. In the Christian Bible, Jesus frequently preached about repentance and turning away from sin. Many people have said that some of these messages can be interpreted in different ways, but ultimately said that they can apply to various situations throughout the modern day. Interestingly, over the years, there's been a variety of mysterious religious events that have been reported, many of which leave the eyewitnesses wondering if they experienced a divine encounter. Our Lady of Zaytown, referred to by believers as the Our Lady of Zaytown event, it appears that within the Zaytown district of Cairo in Egypt, there appears to have been a mass sighting of the Virgin Mary, having manifested as a ghostly apparition above the Church of the Virgin Mary in the city of Cairo. There have often been claims of Marian apparitions, of which are mass sightings of a manifested and ghostly image of the Virgin Mary appearing above churches from around the world. However, the event of Our Lady of Zaytown continues to be one that mystifies believers and skeptics alike. This is due to the fact of the mass witnesses, evidence, and numerous apparitions seen over the course of 2 to 3 years in total. Each time the apparition manifested, witnesses claimed to see the shining image of the Virgin Mary, emanating like a pure white light, and standing as a woman on the roof of the church, looking out over the area. The first sighting occurred back on the 2nd of April, in 1968, when a Muslim bus mechanic working across the street ran to the church in the fear that he had spotted a woman about to jump from the roof. It wasn't long before the police were called, and a crowd had gathered to try to figure out what was going on. The woman then began to glow a bright, blinding white light, and the police had to restrain people and hold them back to prevent them from being trampled. As the sightings continued, More and more people began to gather around the church to also confirm what had been told, only to also bear witness to the strange apparition manifesting before them and seeming to bear the resemblance and likeness to that of the Virgin Mary. Reports claim that more than 250,000 people confirmed the sightings, with several pictures being taken of the event showing a large glowing apparition standing on the roof of the church. The miracle of the sun, also known as the miracle of Fatima, was an event that occurred on October 13, 1917 in the small town of Fatima, Portugal. It is considered one of the most significant religious events of the 20th century and was witnessed by thousands of people. According to the accounts of witnesses, the miracle of the sun began after 3 shepherd children, Lucia dos Santos and her cousins Jacinta and Francisco Marto, reported seeing a vision of the Virgin Mary on 6 different occasions between May 1917. During the final apparition, which occurred on October 13, 1917, the Virgin Mary told the children that she would perform a miracle so that all people would believe in her apparitions and messages. As the crowds of onlookers gathered around the children, a sudden heavy rainstorm began. The rain stopped abruptly, and the clouds parted, revealing the sun. Witnesses reported that the sun appeared to change color and spin, moving erratically across the sky. Many people reported seeing visions, including the Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ, and other saints. Others reported seeing a dancing sun, and some claimed to have witnessed miraculous healings. The event was witnessed by an estimated 100,000 people, including reporters and photographers. The phenomenon has been the subject of much debate and speculation, with some attributing the event to a natural atmospheric phenomenon known as a sundog, while others believe it was a genuine miracle. Regardless of the cause, the miracle of the sun had a profound impact on the Catholic Church and the people of Portugal, with many believers taking it as a sign of the Virgin Mary's approval of the Fatima apparitions and message of prayer, penance, and devotion to the Rosary. The controversial archaeological discovery of the Tel Dan inscription. The Tel Dan inscription is an ancient inscription discovered in 1993 during an archaeological excavation at Tel Dan in northern Israel. It is considered one of the most important and controversial archaeological discoveries in the region. The inscription consists of fragments of a steel or stone monument that dates back to the 9th century BCE. The stele contains an Aramaic inscription that mentions a king of Israel named House of David. This is the first known reference to the biblical King David outside of the Bible, and thus, the Tel Dan inscription has significant historical and religious importance. The inscription mentions the victory of the king of Aram over the king of Israel and the king of the House of David, indicating that the kingdom of Israel was under threat from its neighbors. The Tel Dan inscription consists of 3 fragments, with the largest fragment containing 13 lines of text. The inscription is written in Aramaic, which was the language spoken in the region at the time. The text is difficult to decipher in places due to damage and missing letters, but the meaning of the inscription is generally clear. The discovery of the Tel Dan inscription has helped scholars to better understand the history of the region during the 9th century BCE, as well as the political and religious developments that were taking place at the time. The inscription provides important evidence for the existence of King David and the historical accuracy of the biblical account of his reign. Biblical archaeological discoveries are important for several reasons. Archaeological discoveries can provide evidence that supports the historical accuracy of the biblical narrative. These discoveries can help to confirm events, people, and places described in the Bible, and help to paint a more complete picture of life during biblical times. Archaeological discoveries can provide insight into the daily life, culture, and customs of ancient civilizations, including the Israelites and other peoples described in the Bible. These discoveries can help to give us a better understanding of the people and cultures that played a role in the development of biblical stories. They help to preserve our cultural heritage and history, and provide physical evidence of ancient civilizations, and help us to learn from the mistakes and successes of those who came before us. For many people, biblical archaeological discoveries have spiritual significance. They help to connect people to their religious roots and provide a tangible link to the stories, places, and people described in the Bible. Overall, biblical archaeological discoveries help us to better understand the history, culture, and religious significance of the Bible and the peoples it describes. Despite centuries of exploration and scientific research, much of the world's oceans remain unexplored, and we have only scratched the surface of our understanding of this vast, mysterious realm. It is estimated that we have explored less than 20% of the world's oceans, with much of the remaining 80% still largely uncharted and unknown. This is due in part to the sheer size and depth of the oceans, as well as the challenges involved in studying them. The deep sea, for example, is an especially difficult environment to explore, with crushing pressures, extreme temperatures, and complete darkness. In recent years, advances in technology and oceanographic research have enabled scientists to explore previously inaccessible parts of the ocean, such as the deep sea vents, and uncover new species and ecosystems that were previously unknown to us. However, much of the ocean remains unexplored, and there is still much to learn about the role of the ocean in regulating the Earth's climate and supporting life on our planet. It's also true that we have mapped more of the moon's surface than we have of our own oceans. This is partly due to the fact that the moon is much closer to Earth than the deep ocean and is therefore more accessible to exploration and mapping. In contrast, much of the world's oceans remain largely uncharted and unknown, with only a small fraction of the ocean floor having been mapped in detail. This is due in part to the challenges of exploring the deep ocean, which is a hostile and difficult environment to study. Interestingly, in recent years, divers and fishermen have come forward and detailed their strange experiences while being in and around the world's oceans. One diver posted the following story to social media. He said the following: "I worked with a guy who used to be a deep-sea welder. He also worked on various things in the ocean such as rigs, which would require him to dive deep beneath the ocean. He got talking one day as we shared a lot of things in common, and he told me about some of the strange things that we witnessed while carrying out jobs in the ocean. Due to the years of experience that he had, he told me that he could easily identify wildlife and said that he would often encounter things like deep-sea fish, sharks, along with various squid species. He said that saturation diving pays well, but it's a job that carries its risks, and that this encounter made him think twice about re-entering the water. He said that on this one occasion, he and a team was called out to a big job, which saw him and the team assembling and maintaining an oil rig and pipelines. While he was down there, each of the team had their positions. He detailed that the visibility wasn't great and that it was overall a difficult job to carry out. He said that on day 5, he got into position and started working, but after about 20 minutes, he kept on feeling something heavy touch his back. At first, he thought it might have been another team member, but when he turned around, there was no one there. His second thought was that it could have been a school of fish, going on to say that these underwater structures are somewhat of an attractor for smaller species as they act like protection for them. When it happened, he said that a few minutes later he was able to get a glimpse of this thing and said the only way he could describe it was that it looked like some type of squid. He detailed that the organism put him into a sort of trance, saying that it did this by changing shape and color. He said that he had never experienced anything like it before, as he was still awake and knew what was going on, but noted that he couldn't move. The reason that he said the organism was like a squid is because this is the only animal that he was aware of that had this type of ability. Although he did say that he'd never encountered anything that looked like this creature. He said that he's never got over the fact that this creature was able to paralyze him without touching him. When I asked whether anyone else had seen all of this unfold, he told me that he was behind a large piece of equipment that obstructed his view, saying that all of the other members of the diving team were working on areas of the rig that were out of view. So although a team was within the area, none of them could see each other. He also said that these structures are massive, and even if they were working close together, the visibility in the region that they were in wasn't great. He continued saying that once the creature approached him, getting within around 10 feet, he said that it slowed down its coloration and stopped moving its body into different shapes, and once it did this, he then started to regain movements in his arms and legs. After the creature swam off, he said that he had an incredibly painful headache and felt very dizzy. On the day of the encounter, he said that everything was fine before he entered the water. He didn't complain of having a headache. He didn't have a drink or anything in his system that would compromise him, so he was sure about what he had witnessed. When I questioned him on the size of the creature, he said that it was difficult to say, and the only thing he remembered about its size was that it was much bigger than him. He was certain that it wasn't a common squid species that he had encountered before, saying that normally the areas where he worked had much smaller squids, and that they couldn't do what this creature did. He said he tried to research what this thing was, but every time he did he came up empty, being unable to find a squid or creature that matched what he encountered. At the time he said that I was the only person he told the story to, and that he didn't want anyone knowing about it. He did admit that he was scared to go back into the water as this organism possessed the ability to control him, and it's something that really surprised him as he'd never had this happen to him before. Even though the encounter only lasted a minute or so, it was something that he didn't want to relive. He said that the headache lasted about a week, and it was easily the worst headache he'd ever had before. After this experience, he said that he never encountered the creature again, and that, as of today, he has no idea what it was that he encountered. End quote. Interestingly, this diver isn't the first person to come forward and say that they encountered a mysterious creature while diving in the ocean, and it's led some to suggest that there's undiscovered species that people are encountering that are not yet known to science. Oddly enough, just recently, scientists came forward and proposed that octopuses might be aliens or originated from space. The idea that octopuses might have originated from space is based on the fact that they are highly intelligent and exhibit some unique traits that are not seen in other animals on Earth. For example, octopuses have a complex nervous system and can change color and texture to camouflage themselves in their environment. Additionally, their genetic makeup is quite different from other animals, leading some to speculate that they might have evolved independently from a different ancestor than other animals on Earth. Another thing to keep in mind is that animals belonging to the group Cephalopoda can grow to extreme sizes. The largest squid species in the world is the giant squid, which is also one of the largest invertebrates in the world. Giant squids can grow up to 43 feet or 13 meters in length and can weigh up to 600 pounds or 272 kilograms. Giant squids have a mantle body that can reach lengths of up to 8 feet or 2.5 meters, and 2 long feeding tentacles that can reach lengths of up to 30 feet. They have 8 arms that are lined with suction cups and are used for grabbing prey and bringing it to their beak-like mouth. Despite their large size, not much is known about the behavior and biology of giant squids, as they live in the deep ocean and are rarely encountered by humans. The first footage of a live giant squid in its natural habitat was captured in 2012 by a team of Japanese scientists using a specialized underwater camera. Since then, several more sightings and captures of giant squids have been reported, providing new insights into their biology and behavior. Scientists are constantly discovering new species in the world's oceans, but it is difficult to estimate the exact number of new oceanic species that are discovered each year. This is partly due to the fact that many parts of the ocean remain unexplored and new species are often discovered during research expeditions and surveys. According to the World Register of Marine Species, which maintains a database of all known marine species, an average of around 2,000 new marine species are described and named each year. However, this number can vary widely from year to year depending on factors such as the level of research funding and the number of expeditions and surveys that are conducted. It is important to note that the discovery of new species is just the first step in understanding the biodiversity of the oceans, and much more research is needed to understand the ecological roles of these species and how they interact with each other and with their environment. Additionally, many oceanic species remain undiscovered or poorly studied, highlighting the need for continued research and conservation efforts to protect these vital ecosystems. Scientists have come forward and said that the oceans are difficult to map for a number of reasons. The average depth of the ocean is around 3,800 meters or 12,000 feet, and the deepest parts of the ocean can reach depths of over 11,000 meters, or 36,000 feet. This makes it difficult to explore and map the ocean floor using traditional methods, as the water pressure at such depths is immense and can damage or destroy equipment. The ocean covers over 70% of the Earth's surface, making it a vast and complex environment to study. The vast majority of the ocean floor remains unexplored, and only a small fraction of it has been mapped in detail. Mapping the ocean floor requires specialized equipment, such as sonar systems and underwater vehicles, which are expensive and often difficult to operate in the harsh underwater environment. The ocean is subject to constantly changing weather and environmental conditions, which can make it difficult to conduct research and obtain accurate measurements. Unlike land, which can be easily accessed and studied by researchers, Much of the ocean is inaccessible to humans due to its depth and the challenges involved in conducting research in underwater environments. Despite these challenges, advances in technology and oceanographic research have enabled scientists to make significant progress in mapping and understanding the ocean. For example, the use of satellite technology and underwater vehicles has enabled scientists to explore previously inaccessible parts of the ocean and obtain detailed maps and data on the ocean floor. However, much more research and exploration is needed to fully understand the complexity and importance of the ocean and its role in supporting life on our planet. The total number of species in the ocean is difficult to estimate accurately as the vast majority of the ocean remains unexplored and many species are still waiting to be discovered. However, scientists have identified and named approximately 250,000 marine species to date, and it is estimated that there could be anywhere from 500,000 to 10 million more species that have yet to be discovered. Marine species come in a wide variety of forms and sizes, from tiny plankton to massive whales, and live in a range of habitats, from shallow coral reefs to the deep ocean trenches. The ocean is also home to a high level of biodiversity, with many species exhibiting unique adaptations to their environment such as bioluminescence, camouflage, and extreme temperature tolerance. The oceans are critically important for our planet in many ways. The oceans play a crucial role in regulating the Earth's climate. They absorb and store large amounts of carbon dioxide and help to regulate the Earth's temperature and weather patterns. The oceans are home to a vast array of plant and animal species, many of which are still undiscovered. This biodiversity is important for maintaining the health and stability of the ocean ecosystem and provides important benefits to human populations such as food, medicines, and recreation. The oceans provide a significant source of food for millions of people around the world, particularly in developing countries where fish and seafood are a major source of protein. The ocean also supports many livelihoods such as fishing, shipping, and tourism. Phytoplankton, tiny plants that live in the ocean, are responsible for producing over half of the oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. They are also a critical part of the ocean food web, providing food for many other marine species. Despite their importance, the oceans are facing numerous threats. It is important that we take action to protect and conserve the health and biodiversity of the oceans for the benefit of both current and future generations. Despite being the largest rainforest on Earth, much of the Amazon jungle remains unexplored. Due to its vast size and difficult terrain, it is estimated that only a small fraction of the Amazon has been thoroughly explored by humans. According to a study published in the journal Nature Communications in 2018, used satellite data to estimate the amount of unexplored territory in the Amazon. They found that approximately 68% of the Amazon rainforest is still covered in dense forest and has not been affected by human activity. Within this unexplored area, the researchers estimated that there could be as many as 16,000 species of plants and animals that have not yet been documented by scientists. While some parts of the Amazon have been studied in detail, there are still vast areas that have not been thoroughly explored or documented. For example, there are many indigenous communities living in remote areas of the Amazon that have had limited contact with the outside world, and their way of life remains largely unknown to outsiders. In recent years, there has been growing interest in exploring and documenting the unexplored regions of the Amazon, both for scientific purposes and to better understand the region's ecology and biodiversity. However, the difficult and often dangerous conditions in the Amazon make exploration a challenging endeavor, and there is still much work to be done to fully understand the region's natural and cultural history. Just recently, this satellite captured an interesting photograph, which appears to show a huge opening in the Amazon jungle. The location where the photograph was taken is surrounded by dense forests and would be impossible to reach on foot, and it's for this reason that some have said that it could be home to a lost civilization or could be the remains of a long-forgotten city. Oddly enough, archaeologists and researchers who've studied the region have said the locals have mentioned numerous claims of lost civilizations in the Amazon jungle and said that as the years go on, the evidence only increases. The Amazon rainforest is one of the most biodiverse and least explored regions on the planet, with vast stretches of uncharted territory and dense jungle cover, making it difficult for archaeologists and explorers to study the region in depth. This has led to speculation that there may be undiscovered archaeological sites and ancient ruins hidden in the rainforest. There have been some discoveries of ancient settlements and structures in the Amazon jungle, including the discovery of massive earthworks and mounds that date back to the pre-Columbian era. These structures suggest that there were large and complex civilizations in the region, but the identities of these civilizations are not yet known. Satellites and drones are some of the best ways that we can explore these areas, and some have said that it could benefit us greatly if we explore these types of discoveries. The odd thing about this discovery is that there appears to be a path that goes directly into the entrance. The user who found the entrance said that when they zoomed out slightly, they could see what appeared to be an old, overgrown path and theorized whether this was part of an old settlement. Although civilizations underground might sound like something from a movie, archaeologists have found various examples across the planet where ancient people constructed settlements underground and said that it's not out of the realm of possibilities to suggest that something similar could have happened within the Amazon. This opening isn't small either, and when using the measuring device, it reveals that the entrance is over 265 feet. Some have said that this may have been created by something like a sinkhole and that the reason the ground caved in might be because there's a structure underneath it or perhaps some type of underground void. One person said the following: "Today, we are still finding untouched mountains that hold secrets. If there's going to be a lost civilization anywhere or ruins of a lost civilization, then it's going to be in the Amazon jungle." This is exactly why these satellites are so useful, because they give us a bird's-eye view into areas that we normally wouldn't be able to reach. Something to note is that for hundreds of years, people living within these areas talked about mysterious lost civilizations. So perhaps these weren't just stories and were based on actual events that happened. The only way we are going to know the truth about these types of discoveries is if we head deep into the Amazon jungle and investigate them. End quote. One of the most well-known claims of a lost civilization in the Amazon jungle is the story of the city of the monkey god, which was supposedly discovered in Honduras. However, many archaeologists have questioned the authenticity of this claim, and it remains a topic of controversy and debate. There is ongoing speculation that there may be lost civilizations hidden in the Amazon jungle, but the evidence to support such claims is limited. The Amazon rainforest covers a vast area of land, much of which is inaccessible due to the dense vegetation and rugged terrain. This has made it difficult for archaeologists and explorers to study the region in depth, and there may be many undiscovered archaeological sites and ancient ruins that have yet to be explored. There have been some discoveries of ancient settlements and structures in the Amazon jungle, including the discovery of massive earthworks and mounds that date back to the pre-Columbian era. These structures suggest that there were large and complex civilizations in the region, but the identities of these civilizations are not yet known. Despite the lack of concrete evidence for lost civilizations in the Amazon jungle, there is still much to be learned about the region's ancient history and the people who lived there. Continued archaeological research and exploration in the area may lead to new discoveries and a better understanding of the region's past. It is difficult to provide an exact number of uncontacted tribes living in the Amazon jungle, as many of these groups have deliberately isolated themselves from outside contact and are difficult to locate and study. However, it is estimated that there are dozens of uncontacted tribes living in the Amazon region. Uncontacted tribes are indigenous groups that have had little or no contact with the outside world and remain largely isolated from modern civilization. These tribes often live deep in the rainforest and rely on traditional hunting and gathering practices to survive. Despite their isolation, uncontacted tribes are still under threat from outside forces, including deforestation, mining, and illegal poaching. These activities can lead to conflicts with outsiders, as well as the spread of diseases that the tribes may have no immunity to. Several organizations, including Survival International and the Amazon Conservation Team, work to protect the rights and well-being of uncontacted tribes and promote sustainable development in the region. These groups use a variety of approaches, including working with indigenous communities to develop sustainable economic practices, lobbying governments to protect indigenous land rights, and advocating for increased protections for uncontacted tribes. While the exact number of uncontacted tribes in the Amazon region remains unknown, it is clear that these groups are an important part of the region's cultural and biological diversity. and efforts to protect their rights and well-being are crucial for the future of the region and the planet as a whole. The age of the Amazon rainforest is a subject of ongoing scientific study and debate. While it is difficult to pinpoint an exact age for the rainforest, researchers have used a variety of methods to estimate its age and development over time. One method used to estimate the age of the Amazon rainforest is the study of pollen records. Pollen samples from sediment cores in the Amazon region can be used to track the changes in plant species over time, which in turn can help researchers estimate the age of the rainforest. Using this method, some researchers have suggested that the Amazon rainforest may be as much as 55 million years old, dating back to the early Eocene epoch. Another method used to estimate the age of the Amazon rainforest is the study of geological records. By examining the geological history of the region, researchers can gain insights into the development of the Amazon basin and the evolution of the rainforest over time. Some studies have suggested that the current Amazon rainforest may have begun to take shape around 8 million years ago, when the Andes mountain range began to rise and create the conditions for the region's distinctive climate and ecology. While there is still much to learn about the age and development of the Amazon rainforest, these and other studies suggest that the region has a long and complex history, and that it has been shaped by a variety of geological and ecological factors over millions of years. The Amazon jungle is one of the most important ecosystems on the planet, and its health and well-being are crucial for the survival of countless species, as well as the health and well-being of humans around the world. The Amazon rainforest is home to an incredible variety of plant and animal species, many of which are found nowhere else on Earth. In fact, the Amazon is estimated to contain 10% of the world's known species, including thousands of endemic species that are found only in the region. Protecting the Amazon jungle is therefore crucial for maintaining the planet's biodiversity and preventing the extinction of countless species. The jungle plays a crucial role in regulating the Earth's climate by absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen through photosynthesis. The basin is estimated to absorb and store up to 2,200,000,000 metric tons of carbon each year, making it one of the world's largest carbon sinks. The Amazon jungle also helps regulate the Earth's water cycle, storing and releasing water that is crucial for maintaining freshwater resources around the world. The jungle is home to countless indigenous communities, many of which have lived in the region for thousands of years and have developed unique cultures and traditions that are intimately tied to the forest. Protecting the Amazon jungle is therefore crucial for maintaining the cultural heritage of these communities and ensuring that their way of life is not lost. The Amazon jungle is an important source of economic value for the people who live in the region, providing timber, non-timber forest products, and other resources that are essential for their livelihoods. The region also has significant potential for sustainable economic development, including ecotourism and sustainable agriculture that can help support local communities while also protecting the forest. Overall, the Amazon jungle is a complex and important ecosystem that is essential for maintaining the health and well-being of countless species as well as the planet as a whole. Protecting the Amazon jungle is therefore a crucial priority for conservationists, policymakers, and individuals around the world. The rate at which the Amazon rainforest is disappearing has varied over time, but deforestation has been a significant problem in the region for decades. According to data from Brazil's National Institute for Space Research, the rate of deforestation in the Amazon rainforest has fluctuated in recent years, but it has generally been increasing since 2012. In 2020, the National Institute for Space Research reported that the Amazon rainforest lost an area of 11,000 square kilometers or 4,200 square miles to deforestation, marking a 9.5% increase from the previous year. This represents the highest level of deforestation in the region since February 8th. While this rate of deforestation is still lower than it was it is a cause for concern given the critical role that the Amazon rainforest plays in regulating the Earth's climate and maintaining global biodiversity. It is important to note that deforestation in the Amazon rainforest is driven by a variety of factors, including agriculture, mining, and logging, as well as illegal activities such as land grabbing and drug trafficking. Addressing the root causes of deforestation will be crucial for protecting the Amazon rainforest and the many species that depend on it. So what do you make of this mysterious Amazon jungle discovery? Illegal digging, also known as looting or tomb raiding, has been a persistent problem in Egypt for many years. The country's rich archaeological heritage and the lure of valuable artifacts have made it a prime target for looters. According to a 2018 report by the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, there were more than 30 cases of illegal digging or attempted illegal digging reported in the country that year alone. However, it is believed that many more cases go unreported. Illegal digging can have a devastating impact on Egypt's cultural heritage. It can lead to the destruction of archaeological sites and the loss of important artifacts that can never be recovered. It also fuels a black market for antiquities where stolen artifacts are sold for large sums of money. The Egyptian government has taken steps to combat illegal digging, including increasing penalties for those caught and stepping up patrols of archaeological sites. However, the problem persists, and more needs to be done to protect Egypt's cultural heritage from looters. Just recently, a video of a digger was uploaded to social media where the user said that they found something interesting. The object in question appears to be gold and has on the back of it hieroglyphics, while on the front is what appears to be an unknown female Egyptian. The carving is strange as it always appears to be staring at you. However, the phenomenon of the eyes appearing to follow you is actually an optical illusion called the Mona Lisa effect. It is named after Leonardo da Vinci's famous painting, the Mona Lisa, which appears to follow viewers no matter where they stand. The effect occurs because of the way our eyes perceive objects in the visual field. When we look at a painting or a portrait, our brains perceive it as a three-dimensional object even though it is actually flat. This means that our brains try to adjust our perspective based on the position of the painting, causing the eyes to appear to follow us. Oddly enough, though, it's reported that the digger who found this artifact also found various other ancient relics, saying that gold bars along with small golden statues were also found. The digger went on to detail that these objects were found inside an old abandoned tunnel, but didn't give away any details as to where this tunnel was located. Ancient Egypt was one of the most important and influential civilizations in human history. The discoveries and artifacts left behind by the ancient Egyptians provide valuable insights into their culture, religion, social structure, art, and technology. There are various reasons why people illegally dig in Egypt, but most of them are driven by the desire to find valuable antiquities that can be sold on the black market. These antiquities are often stolen from archaeological sites or tombs and sold to collectors or dealers who are willing to pay large sums of money for them. Another reason is the lack of economic opportunities in certain areas of Egypt, particularly in rural areas where poverty is widespread. In such areas, people may turn to illegal digging as a way to make money since the sale of antiquities can be a lucrative business. In some cases, political instability and conflict can also contribute to illegal digging. During times of unrest, security forces may be preoccupied with other issues, allowing looters to operate with relative impunity. Unfortunately, illegal digging in Egypt has a significant impact on the country's cultural heritage. When antiquities are stolen and sold on the black market, they are often lost forever, with little hope of ever being recovered or returned to their rightful place in history. Additionally, illegal digging can cause damage to archaeological sites and tombs, further eroding Egypt's rich cultural legacy. Interestingly, gold was highly valued in ancient Egypt and was used for a variety of purposes, such as jewelry, religious objects, and as a symbol of power and wealth. The ancient Egyptians obtained gold from various sources, including mines in Nubia and the Eastern Desert. Some of the gold was used to make elaborate burial masks, jewelry, and other funerary objects for the pharaohs and other elite members of society. The tombs of some pharaohs, such as King Tut, were filled with gold objects, including the famous solid gold funerary mask. It's believed that much of the gold from ancient Egypt was eventually melted down and reused for other purposes over time. Some of it may have been lost or stolen during the many invasions and conflicts that occurred throughout Egyptian history. However, there are still many ancient Egyptian artifacts made of gold that have survived to this day and continue to fascinate people around the world. The ancient Egyptians were most successful during the period known as the New Kingdom, which lasted from approximately 1550 BCE to 1069 BCE. This era saw a period of great expansion and prosperity for Egypt, with powerful pharaohs who were able to establish Egypt as a major military and economic power in the region. During the New Kingdom, Egypt experienced a renaissance in art, architecture, and culture. The pharaohs of this era built magnificent temples and palaces, and many of the most famous monuments of Egypt, such as the temple complex at Karnak and the Valley of the Kings, were constructed during this time. The New Kingdom also saw the rise of the powerful pharaohs, such as Ahmose I, Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, Amenhotep III, and Ramesses II, who were able to conquer neighboring territories, establish trade networks, and build an empire. One of the most significant events of the New Kingdom was the reign of Akhenaten, who attempted to establish a new monotheistic religion centered around the worship of the sun god, Aten. While his religious reforms were ultimately unsuccessful, they represented a major departure from traditional Egyptian beliefs and had a profound impact on Egyptian culture. The New Kingdom came to an end in the late 11th century BCE due to a combination of factors, including economic instability, internal unrest, and invasions by foreign powers. However, its legacy continued to influence Egyptian culture and society for centuries to come, and many of its achievements continue to fascinate and inspire people around the world. Physicists reveal aliens might use black holes as quantum computers. The Fermi paradox is the belief that if extraterrestrial beings really exist somewhere in the universe, there would be far more conclusive evidence that we currently have pointing to their presence. This particular paradox has plagued astronomers, cosmologists, researchers, and alien enthusiasts alike as they continue their search for any indication of advanced life in the universe. Many hold out hope that the lack of evidence does not necessitate the conclusion of its non-existence. Some alternative ideas and potential resolutions to this paradox also claim that there are many reasons why such evidence may be hard to find. Either the living organisms do not operate on a massive scale as may be necessary for there to be evidence of life left behind, or that there simply is not enough material used to result in evidence that could be detected. Another prevalent notion is that because the universe is so massive, there is a good chance that advanced civilizations and groups of extraterrestrial beings may simply be too engaged and involved in their own activities or limited to specific regions, which makes them even less likely to be found. Just because we have not yet found evidence of aliens does not mean we can say with complete certainty that they absolutely do not exist. Now, an even more recent study is giving researchers another idea of why we might not be finding hard proof of aliens: the possibility that these extraterrestrial beings could be using black holes as some sort of quantum computer. What this means in terms of the search for life is that potential civilizations in the rest of the universe may be on purpose or inadvertently concealing their existence using highly advanced technology not entirely accessible to us on Earth. Quantum computing is much faster, better, and a huge improvement upon the technology we use in our everyday lives as digital computing. Quantum computing is also immune to decryption, meaning that its biggest strength lies in keeping information hidden and concealed. And because researchers have been seeking proof by means of radio messages, directed energy, such as lasers or gravitational waves among many others, the lack of evidence could be a direct result of the way black holes are potentially being used as quantum computers. This new theory is exciting because it poses a possible solution to the Fermi paradox, as well as potentially directing the efforts of researchers towards potentially better means of finding evidence of life in the universe. Asteroid Yugu, made up of organic molecules that are building blocks of life. There is a prominent theory in the field of astronomy, which maintains that all basic building blocks of life did not originally come from the Earth itself. In fact, it's argued that these organic molecules were delivered to the planet from outside to eventually land on its surface during its infancy. The organic molecules that make up the basic foundations for all life on Earth are a vast array of compounds containing a combination of the elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and other atoms. Such compounds are created by chemical reactions that do not need or use living organisms, but rather are the main underpinnings of all life. And now evidence of these organic molecules or building blocks have been found within substances that come from outer space asteroids. The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency spacecraft Hayabusa 2 was able to obtain samples from the asteroid, Ryugu, and return those samples to Earth, where they were studied and broken down to their basics. This is an enormous undertaking and has moved researchers one step further to the confirmation that the theory about how life really came to exist on Earth may actually hold more truth than was originally believed. The sample contains several types of amino acids that are used by living organisms in order to build proteins essential to regulating chemical reactions and forming structures like hair or muscle. Even more incredible was the finding of organic prebiotic molecules that are usually formed in the presence of water. Aliphatic amines, carboxylic acid, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and nitrogen-containing heterocyclic compounds. The results of these studies are showing that the asteroid has similar compositions to meteorites in space. Meteorites that have been known to have a higher exposure to water. Further information would clarify just how far this evidence goes, and what is lacking from these samples is a good indication of what researchers should keep looking for. Specifically, some of the resources that have been found in other carbon-rich asteroids are missing from these Yugu samples, sugars, and components of DNA and RNA. The research team suspects that the asteroid is not lacking, but rather that further studies deeper into the asteroid are necessary to locate these molecules. James Webb Telescope finds distant galaxies that shouldn't exist. The James Webb Space Telescope has by now been in space for over a year in its current mission. It has provided immense important information thus far, and now the telescope has discovered galaxies that simply should not exist. That is because these galaxies are too big, the stars within them too old, and these two details have shaken all previous notions of how the universe looked and operated in its earliest existence. What's more, these findings do not match earlier observations made by the telescope's predecessor, the Hubble Space Telescope. Two key elements of what the universe looked like in its youth have been compromised. First, the prior conclusion that the galaxies then were small and young. And second, that as a result of their size and age, their stars would burn blue. Now this seems to not be the case. When researchers received images from the James Webb Space Telescope, the last thing they expected to see were the big red galaxies with masses equaling that of the Milky Way. This is astounding because due to the way time and space works in the universe, these images of the galaxies should theoretically be far, far younger than ours. It's necessary to get further confirmation of what has been detected by the telescope and what the images are showing us. Just because it seems that these large red spots are older, larger galaxies doesn't necessarily mean they are. The truth of the matter is that because there are so many factors at play, particularly when acquiring data from so far away, both in distance and time, there are a lot of variables such as the possibility that certain stars in the early universe might simply emit light in a way that is different to what we originally thought. What might seem like a galaxy could be a star shining in an unusual, never-before-seen manner. This is the complicated yet exciting thing about space, and we are constantly learning and evolving. Astronomers see moons forming in disks around distant exoplanets. One question that has played on the minds of astronomers for decades with no real answer is how planets and their moons are formed. But thanks to new research, we could be one step closer to answering that very question. Within our solar system, we can see a broad range of moons, from the icy moons like Jupiter's Io to the volcanic surfaces seen on Neptune's Tristan. Whilst we have recorded and observed plenty of moons that orbit the planets in our solar system, 219 to be precise, we are yet to observe any moons beyond Pluto. Planets outside of our solar system are known as exoplanets, and moons by definition orbit a planet. Therefore, it is safe to assume that there are a fair number of moons orbiting these exoplanets too. Despite having found more than 4,000 exoplanets, scientists are yet to definitively see an exomoon. There are 6 potential candidates under surveillance that could be orbiting exoplanets, but we are awaiting confirmation. A particular duo of exoplanets, not unlike Jupiter, have been observed for years. They sit nearly 400 light-years away from Earth and may have recently given us the next step in detecting an exomoon and seeing how moons are formed. Astronomers have observed what is being described as a disk of debris orbiting one of these exoplanets. This is a circle of rocks and gas that is slowly and gradually forming together from its own gravity. Could we have observed a moon in the process of its creation? Many astronomical discoveries are made by noticing a small flicker or slight variation in datasets that tell us to probe further. This phenomenon, however, was captured clear as day in a photograph. This photograph has sparked plenty of excitement and discussion among scientists. An astronomer working at Stanford University, Bruce McIntosh, although not involved with the research, commented, "I don't have coherent scientific thoughts. I just look at the image and say wow every time I see it." The discovery was first reported in the Astrophysical Journal Letters on July 22 and has reignited discussions into how moons are formed. Theories have spread within scientific communities, suggesting that high-force impacts may aid the formation, or magnetic whirlpools that disrupt the gravitational pull could be behind the creation of moons. Miriam Benisti, the lead author of the study and astronomer from the University of Grenoble, says, "We have all these theories that are beautiful, but if you cannot test them, they could be completely wrong." This concept of a theory lacking falsifiability or being unable to be proved presents an issue to numerous branches of science, most famously psychology and astronomy, where things can be a little harder to experiment. However, the star system in which this disk of debris has been spotted could present a good opportunity to criticize, rule out, and find support for all of these theories. This system is very young in comparison to our own solar system, with the exoplanets PDS-70b and PDS-70c still having their own disk of gas and dust encircling them, indicating they were only recently formed. It was in 2019, a month after the discovery of PDS-70c, that the dust suggesting an exomoon could be forming was spotted via Chile's Atacama Large Millimeter Array, or ALMA. Despite having been the first sign of activity, the signal was incredibly faint, though follow-up observations by Dr. Benesti's team revealed the disk of debris that could be the start of an exomoon forming. It is hoped that within a short amount of time, these methods and patterns of discoveries can become routine and run-of-the-mill. There are a number of telescopes and space observatories with high-tech equipment and that are very powerful that will be open and available for use over the next few years. Hopefully, we will be able to report exomoons themselves being caught on camera, full-formed and entirely confirmed. The discovery of moons in the making is arguably more exciting than stumbling across fully formed moons. Hopefully, soon enough, we will be able to observe the final product of the exomoons. Astronauts could get oxygen from moon rocks. Space exploration has surprised us with the level of rewards we continue to receive. According to a team of scientists at China's Nanjing University, compounds found in lunar soil may have the capability to produce oxygen and fuel to support moon missions. The team studied moon samples from China's Chang'e 5 spacecraft and discovered iron-rich and titanium-rich compounds that might be able to act as a catalyst in a process called the extraterrestrial photosynthesis strategy. This strategy uses lunar soil to transform water from the moon into hydrogen and oxygen. When astronauts exhale in space, they are producing carbon dioxide that could be used with the hydrogen from water electrolysis to produce hydrocarbons such as methane. The methane could be used as fuel for continued space travel. The paper that produced these findings is part of research scientists have been doing into how resources found on the moon can be used to further space exploration. Space travel is a costly endeavor, and the team is trying to find cost-reducing local resources to make space exploration more possible. Multiple space organizations across several countries are getting in on the action. Along with China's plans to test technology that uses local resources, NASA is also planning to create a long-term plan for a sustainable presence on the moon with the Artemis program. The Artemis program aims to put people back on the moon by the mid-2020s and set up a research station in the south pole of the moon by the late 2020s. Chang'e has been a massive success as it was able to bring back the lunar samples that the team used to make this discovery. Incredibly, it was the first time in almost 50 years that a successful moon sample return occurred. The last time being the Soviet Lunar 24 mission in 1976. Scientists will undoubtedly use this success to discover more secrets of the universe. In the past few years, there have been some incredible space discoveries that have captured our attention. From technological advancements to new planets, the universe continues to surprise us with its endless possibilities. Sometimes when we pass someone on the street, read something on the news, hear a story told by a friend, it can take us a moment to remember that the world is so much bigger than our own lives. There is a great deal of fascinating research exploring the world beyond our own. Whether it's looking at the composition of some of the wonders out there or trying to find answers behind mysteries we have observed, astronomers conduct an abundance of research, aiming to answer a variety of questions and find us answers as to what lies beyond our own familiar horizons. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be taking a look at 3 recent discoveries exploring unusual and unanticipated quirks we have seen out there beyond our own little world. Mysterious new planet ring system discovered inside our solar system. In February of 2023, reports have been shared of a dwarf planet featuring some unusual characteristics that have left scientists trying to understand precisely how and why the expected process has not occurred. In the outskirts of our very own solar system just beyond Neptune, a dwarf planet has been seen with a distant ring forming around it. This ring, comprised of a mixture of dust and debris, has been likened to those of Saturn. Though this dwarf planet's ring is a little more of a shock due to just how far it sits from the planetary body itself. Our solar system boasts several dwarf planets, the most famous of which is, of course, Pluto. Some of these sit along the edge of our solar system, orbiting in a radius larger than that of Neptune, earning themselves the name of trans-Neptunian objects. One such object is a dwarf planet with an unusual ring. We have a fair few examples of planetary rings within our own solar system, while Saturn has a whole host. We can also see similar rings around Jupiter, Neptune, and Uranus. Even within dwarf planets and trans-Neptunian objects, we have observed rings in bodies such as Hormir and Chariklo. Even with all these examples, remains an outsider. The ring surrounding sits unusually far from the dwarf planet itself. So far out, in fact, that prior to conducting these observations, it was assumed to be impossible for a ring to sit so far out. The ring sits at a radius of 2,420 miles away from the center of the dwarf planet. At that distance, it has been thought that the gravitational pull from quail and planetary bodies alike would be too small for material to remain spread out and dispersed in this manner. When the materials sit outside of the distance, known as the Roche limit, we have expected and seen before that the material coalesces under its own gravity, forming another moon. This is the first time we have seen a ring sit outside of the Roche limit. Now that we have confirmed that our current understanding is not quite right, we need to look at revising the Roche limit, or rather, what can and cannot exist outside of it. Either that, or there is a different underlying function to the Quara ring, and it should be considered something entirely distinct from others that have been previously observed. Amateur astronomer discovers new moon orbiting Jupiter. For the first time ever, an amateur astronomer discovered a new moon in our galaxy. After poring over photos of possible Jovian moons, Kylie discovered a new moon orbiting Jupiter. This is not the first discovery that Kylie has made. In 2020, they discovered 4 lost Jupiter moons. Lee used old telescope images from 2003 taken by the Canada-France-Hawaii telescope to find the new Jupiter moon. They were interested in finding another moon on Jupiter, so they analyzed the photos and discovered 3 possible moons. Then, with photos taken days later, one of the potential moons remained. Lee paid a lot of attention to the photos taken in 2003 because the moons were at their brightest. In 2003, the moons were experiencing a phenomenon called opposition. Opposition occurs when a planet and the sun appear on opposite ends of the Earth's sky, illuminating the planet's system and satellites. In February 2003, this occurred in Jupiter. Lee continued to trace the moon's orbit from images taken from 2003 through to 2018. In total, there were roughly 76 sightings of the moon over a 15-year period. The moon was found in the COM cluster, which includes 22 other space rocks that share similar orbit patterns. COM is the largest rock in this cluster. While Lee first thought the moon might be another satellite rock orbiting near COM, they learned that it was a moon after they calculated the object's trajectory. It is incredible Lee was able to view the moon since some of the Jupiter moons are so small that they can only be detected once a year by even the largest telescope. Lee hoped to make more discoveries in the future, although they described moon hunting as a summer hobby before I returned to school. More moon discoveries are definitely possible. In 2020, Edward Ashton, Matthew Bedoin, and Brett J. Gladman from the University of British Columbia have made preliminary observations that suggest Jupiter could have over 600 satellite moons. Astronomers discover spooky object emitting energy in space. Following unknown signals is a well-established method in the field of astrophysics. Researchers will detect something a little out of the ordinary and then begins the quest to find answers as to where it may be coming from. Recently, a team of astronomers detected an energy burst from 4,000 light-years away, so intense that it was one of the most prevalent radio sources. It was detected as frequently as every 20 minutes, with each burst lasting for 1 minute. This cycle would repeat for a short while, then would go undetected for several hours before resuming. While following up on unknown signals is nothing new, it's rather baffling that the radio burst would disappear and reappear over the span of several hours. Lead author of the study, astrophysicist Natasha Hurley-Walker, described this as quite spooky due to the previously unseen nature of these reappearing bursts. We are used to seeing slow transient bursts lasting over a few days before dropping off of our radar for a number of months before resurfacing, or fast transients in which we see flashes with durations of just milliseconds. Within either of these known categories, it's clear we are observing something entirely distinct from either of these. Theories are in progress, though with no definitive answers. It has been suggested that it could be being emitted from a slowly spinning neutron star, known as an ultra-long period magnetar, though further research is required to bring this forth past speculation. There are many things out there for us to discover to get us to stop and recalculate previous categories and definitions, all bringing us closer to further answers. With each discovery we make, we find out more and get one step closer to having the right understanding of the world out there. Scientists have found a mysterious distant object sitting at the edge of our solar system. No scientific discovery comes easily. For years, scientists have been searching for Planet X, an undiscovered world that astronomers believe is lying on the edges of our solar system, but they have not been able to get concrete proof of this. However, that might have changed with the discovery of a mysterious distant object they found at the edge of our solar system. The object has an orbit that makes it seem like there is a super-Earth around it. Believing that Planet X is affecting the object, astronomers ran simulations of the object's orbit and deduced that a super-Earth-like object would make sense with how the newly discovered object is moving through the solar system. This object, named 2015 TG387, is most likely a dwarf planet with a 300-kilometer diameter. It is also 2.5 times farther away from our Sun than Pluto, and while the object's orbit takes it to about 2,300 astronomical units, Pluto's lies at 34 astronomical units. Suffice to say, the object is very far away. Due to its distance, 2015 TG387 is one of the few objects in our solar system, along with other inner-Oort cloud objects like 2012 VP113 and Sedna, that are not affected by the giant planets Neptune and Jupiter. Astronomers say studying those types of isolated objects would be incredibly valuable, and that there may be many more than we realize. But due to their distance, that seems to be a challenging task. According to the University of Hawaii's David Thalin, the only reason astronomers were able to find 2015 TG387 is because it was near its closest distance to the Sun, while, for some 99% of its 40,000-year orbit, it would be too faint to see. Astronomers certainly will not give up on trying. As Carnegie astronomer Scott Shepard, who also led the research, stated, "These distant objects are like breadcrumbs leading us to Planet X. The more of them we can find, the better we can understand the outer solar system and the possible planet that we think is shaping their orbits, a discovery that would redefine our knowledge of the solar system's evolution." Radio astronomers discover Saturn-sized exoplanets using radio waves. A more recent avenue that is being explored in astrophysics is the search for exoplanets propelled forth largely by TESS, the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, a space telescope designed for NASA's Explorer program. So far, we know of 5,054 exoplanets, 227 of which have been confirmed by TESS, and an additional 3,852 are waiting for TESS to check them out. While TESS has been monumental to this research, there are other methods being used to track these exoplanets down too. In 2020, an exoplanet was discovered with a mass not too dissimilar to Saturn. It was not the discovery of the exoplanet, nor the star it orbits, however, that caught the attention of astronomers, but rather the way in which it was found. These astronomers used a radio telescope to track the movement of the star this planet orbits through the Milky Way. From this movement, they were able to see that the slight winding path reflected the path of a star whose journey is slightly altered by the gravitational impact of an orbiting exoplanet. This technique is groundbreaking And while radio telescopes have had plenty of other functions and pivotal roles to play up until now, this 2020 discovery marks the first time this technique monitoring the movement of the star has been completed using a radio telescope. The research surrounding exoplanets is fascinating, and it is truly revolutionary if we find alternate techniques and methods that we can make use of whilst conducting these searches of the skies. A supernova could light up the Milky Way at any time. Perhaps the last time we had a close star to us explode was in the February of 1987. Its explosion was monumental, driving forth advancements in astrophysics and breaking the media worldwide. For us here on Earth, we saw a sudden bright light in the sky. Now, we have reason to believe that another supernova could follow suit sometime in the not-too-distant future. Researchers can assess the likelihood of this occurring from the neutrinos coming from the supernova. Masayuki Nakahata and Keiko Hirata spotted the evidence of this happening, thanks to the Kamiokande 2 detector at the Kamioka Underground Observatory near Hida, Japan. The pair were the first to spot these fundamental particles coming from anywhere outside of our own solar system. Nakahata, who is now a physicist at the University of Tokyo, is the head of the world's largest neutrino experiment of its kind, known as Super Kamiokande. This system will allow the observatory's computers to see in almost real time when neutrinos are being detected so that an automated alert can be sent out to the conventional telescopes all around the world, making sure as many people are able to witness this event as possible. Alec Habig, an astrophysicist at the University of Minnesota, Duluth, said it's going to give everyone the willies. By giving astronomers worldwide the advance notice, everyone can be ready to catch this event. The early warning provided by Super Kamiokande means that plenty of telescopes can turn, in many cases automatically, towards the supernova. When the skies are lit up, we can expect it to be brighter than a full moon, visible during the daytime, and overwhelm the sensors in our telescopes which are used to looking for hard-to-spot details. It is rare for us to observe a supernova up close, an event we do not often witness and gives us a tremendous opportunity. Strongest Marsquakes yet discovered by NASA's InSight lander. Now leaving behind the remarkable discoveries we can find here on our own planet, similar fascinating findings have been made on our neighbor Mars. On September 18th, InSight Mars lander's 1000th day on the surface of the red planet, the rover detected one of the biggest Marsquakes yet, with an estimated magnitude of 4.2, and even more impressively, it shook the ground for almost 90 whole minutes, making it also the longest recorded Marsquake to date. Similar quakes had been recorded a month ago in August. With magnitudes of 4.2–4.1, these Marsquakes all make for revolutionary discoveries, as they have 5 times the energy of InSight's previous record holder, which was a 3.7 quake recorded in 2019. It is wondered by some whether these are truly the largest Marsquakes out there, or if we simply have not been able to pick up on others, perhaps due to lack of equipment or simply because in the grand scheme of things, we have not been exploring Mars for that long. Regardless, this is an even more fascinating discovery because InSight nearly would have missed it due to some unfortunate circumstances in its orbit. Being solar-powered, InSight faced some difficulties when Mars' highly elliptical orbit took it further away from the Sun for a prolonged period of time. Low temperatures and dust buildup further worsened conditions for the spacecraft, meaning NASA had to turn off certain instruments to conserve energy. Extremely luckily for us is that they decided to keep the seismometer on even throughout these challenging times. It makes for an even more exciting discovery that, thanks to the teams at NASA, we did not miss out on. We may live in a massive cosmic void. In 2013, the University of Wisconsin-Madison's astronomer, Amy Barger, and her student Ryan Keegan made an interesting discovery. They found that the density of our nearby universe is lower than that of other parts. The density of the universe is largely uniform. However, if you break the universe up into smaller parts, it begins to look a lot like a block of Swiss cheese. These smaller parts have certain sections that are very densely packed, and others that are more sparsely populated. Research suggests that Earth sits squarely in one of these barer sections, hence the suggestion that if the universe is a big block of Swiss cheese, Earth sits in one of its holes. In fact, one of Amy Barger's students, Ben Hoshite, presented new research at a meeting of the American Astronomical Society. Hoshite looked at disparities in measures of the Hubble constant, the number we use to describe the rate at which the universe is growing. Since it describes the condition of our universe, Hubble's constant is expected to stay the same throughout the universe. However, Hochschild found an important difference. To get a local measurement, he found Hubble's constant by analyzing the movement of relatively close Type 1a supernovas. To get a cosmic measurement, he used cosmic microwave background radiation leftovers from the Big Bang. Hochschild believes that the massive void theory, also known as the Swiss cheese theory, may be to blame for the disparity in Hubble's constant, saying the constant is higher using the supernova method. This is in accordance with how we would expect the void to affect the Hubble constant. Gravity from higher density areas is pulling things out of the void at a faster rate than we would otherwise expect. Surprisingly, the astronomical research community seems to be in agreement on the massive void theory. Researchers believe that this particular void is 7 times bigger than any other void they have ever measured, and our galaxy is a few 100 million light-years away from the void's center. Surely, such findings serve to remind us once again how minuscule we are in the context of the universe. Even so, this relatively new theory brings us a step closer to understanding how our universe is built, structured, and designed, and it may help us solve other mysteries in the future. Physicist claims alien messages may be hidden in the stars. Everyone has at some point wondered about the possibility of life outside of Earth. It is nearly impossible not to when gazing into the empty, never-ending space above us, counting the stars. With space being so vast and seemingly endless, many wonder how or why we have not yet contacted extraterrestrial life. This phenomenon has been named the Fermi paradox. The Fermi paradox refers to the confusing contradiction between the complete lack of evidence for extraterrestrial life and the seemingly high probability of their existence. Some scientists believe they have the solution to explain why we have not made any contact with aliens. Terry Rudolph, a quantum physicist at the Imperial College London, suggests that aliens have been attempting to communicate with us through the stars themselves. Rudolph speculates that if aliens were to communicate vast distances, they would likely attempt to do so in more subtle ways, as to direct any communication to one planet without interference from other extraterrestrial life. As a result, a possible method of communication would be through the stars. He further explains his hypothesis by stating that aliens could potentially manipulate the photons inside individual stars to alter the light emitted from them. This fluctuation in the light of a star could be translated if we could uncover the code. Rudolph postulates, photons can propagate billions of light-years and retain significant quantum coherence. This makes stars a reliable resource for communication and allows for messages to be sent across extremely long distances without disturbance. He believes that this method of communication could be appealing to an alien population if they are aware of other alien populations that pose a threat. So, how can we translate these messages? As an extensively educated physicist, Rudolph feels confident in the possibility of this theory. However, he does not claim that aliens are communicating in this manner, rather that it is possible. If his theory were true, it still leaves one crucial issue. We have no way of translating messages in the stars. If aliens were utilizing this method, they would need to provide us with some form of a decoder to allow us to understand any of their messages. Until then, surely it remains a mystery. Telescopes detect the biggest explosion since the Big Bang. In a recent development, astronomers have discovered the largest explosion since the Big Bang. The explosion resulting from a massive black hole occurred at the center of the Ophiuchus galaxy, about 390 million light-years away. This blast is not just speculation from ESA scientists. NASA was able to confirm the blast because the radio data and X-rays matched each other, and low-frequency radio telescopes found that the cavity was filled with radioplasma. While scientists have long been interested in the Ophiuchus galaxy due to its strange curved edge, there had been plenty of doubt about if this curve could have been caused by a black hole. Black holes can release vast amounts of material and energy as radio jets that collide with other objects in the locality. Despite the black hole theory, many astronomers actually believed that the cavity was too big to be a black hole. The team who discovered this incredible event are researchers at the International Centre for Radio Astronomy Research in Western Australia. The team used 4 telescopes for their work, each stationed in different parts of the world, including the European Space Agency's XMM Newton X-ray Space Observatory and NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory. The explosion was so large that it cut through the hot gas that surrounds black holes, called cluster plasma. According to Melanie Johnson-Hollett, a professor at Curtin University and co-author of the research paper, we've seen outbursts in the centers of galaxies before. But this one is really, really massive, and we don't know why it's so big. The nature of this massive explosion has drawn comparisons to another destructive, large explosion right here on Earth, the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, which destroyed about 200 square miles of wilderness. Despite these comparisons, the crater the eruption created could fit 15 Milky Way galaxies in a row. Another interesting aspect of this explosion is just how slow it occurred. According to Johnston-Hollett, the explosion looked as if it had been slowly happening over 101 million of years. Excitingly, this discovery may have made it possible to find more outbursts in the future. Astronomers are now able to use low-frequency radio telescopes that may make it possible to discover more explosions like this one. Strange infrared light emitting from a pulsar. The cosmos is a thing of awe, horror, and fascination. Space has been the subject of speculation for eons. Among some of the most questioned space-related topics, black holes and neutron stars have to be some of the most popular discussed topics due to how little we truly know about them or how they fit in the larger scheme of the universe. Recently, the Hubble Space Telescope has discovered something unsettling and intriguing. One neutron star has been caught displaying strange swirls of glowing infrared light. When a supernova explodes, it sometimes leaves behind neutron stars. Neutron stars are an estimated 1.4 times denser than our Sun, but only 12.4 miles in diameter. Space.com claims that at such an insane density, a teaspoon would weigh 1 billion tons. Occasionally, neutron stars spin at high speeds and release electromagnetic radiation, such as X-rays. These neutron stars are known as pulsars. Our XJ 806.4 to 4124 is the name of the neutron star emitting infrared light, and studying it might help develop our understanding of how neutron stars work. RX and 6 other X-ray pulsars near us, being 3,300 light-years away from Earth, are referred to by astronomers as the Magnificent Seven. The reason why these 7 stars are so extraordinary is that they burn intensely hot, hotter than they logically should, given the available energy at their disposal and their age. They also spin around at a slower rate than most other known pulsars. Bettina Posselt, a lead author of an astrological paper in the Astrophysical Journal, states, "We observed an extended area of infrared emissions around this neutron star, the total size of which translates into about 200 astronomical units, approximately 18 billion miles at the assumed distance of the pulsar. Never before has a pulsar emitted infrared light, especially with such an insanely large signal. The emission is clearly above what the neutron star itself emits. It doesn't come from the neutron star alone. And though astronomers are frantically coming up with theories and suggestions, nothing can be proven just yet. We will have to observe and hope that we will be able to uncover the secrets of the pulsar RxJ 806.4-4124. First ever documented tectonic activity on exoplanet. Exoplanets are extremely hard to see. Hidden by a bright light that glares from the stars they orbit, exoplanets are basically classified as anything that orbits a larger star like Earth. In a new report submitted by the University of Bern, scientists found that the night side of an exoplanet called LHS 3844b is tectonically active. This exoplanet, which orbits the red dwarf star LHS 3844, was detected by the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite. Though its surface is comparable to that of Mercury, it is larger than Earth and orbits its parent star in 11 hours. Tobias Meyer, an astronomer of the university, mentioned the huge variance of temperatures. We thought that such a large temperature difference could affect the flow of matter inside the planet. The temperatures being referenced to are degrees upwards of 800 degrees Celsius on the sun side, and below -25 Celsius on the night side. Similar to the activity seen in Hawaii and Iceland's volcanic areas, researchers witnessed the swelling of material on one side of the planet. They determined that this swelling could cause activity across the hemisphere. While they believe that one side of this exoplanet has a great deal of volcanic activity, the other side of the mysterious planet seems to have none at all. This type of tectonic activity documentation, however, is a first. Until now, We have only seen volcanoes of this nature grow in areas on Earth. How many more tectonically active stars and planets could be in our atmosphere? We are excited to keep following along and find out. Scientists are realizing that a mysterious fast radio burst from space looks strangely familiar. In the galaxy M81, 12 million light-years away, scientists saw strange, bright flashes that are drawing up memories from flashes found in the Crab Nebula. The Crab Nebula is a famous remnant of an old supernova that humans witnessed all the way back in 1054 AD. Those flashes, now known as repeating fast radio bursts or FRBs, were seen by multiple different cultures, such as Chinese astronomers who saw the star above the southern horn of Taurus, as well as Arab and Japanese astronomers. The flashes remained brightly shining for 23 days and were 6 times brighter than Venus, according to the astronomers at the time. It took 700 years for the star remnant to be spotted by telescope by John Bevis, a British astronomer. Famous astronomer Charles Messier even found the star 27 years later and included it in his catalogue of Messier objects. Then, another 200 years later, in the 1960s, astronomers detected a fluctuating radio source where the Crab Nebula lies and determined that the signal came from a pulsar or a neutron star with a strong magnetic field. Now, the flashes that were recently detected by scientists are being compared to those witnessed 1,000 years ago. According to Kenzie Nimmo, a PhD student in astronomy, some of the signals we measured are short and extremely powerful, in just the same way as some signals from the Crab pulsar. Astronomers are still trying to figure out the nature of fast radio bursts because where they were found is quite peculiar. Usually, FRBs are found in galaxies abundant with young stars. But the radio dishes pointed the signal source to a group of old stars called a globular cluster. The source of the signal challenges the idea that magnetars, the strongest magnets in the universe and a type of supernova remnant, are responsible for FRBs. This is because the explanation works well when young stars are abundant, but when there is a substantial number of old stars, as is true for galaxy M81, the explanation begins to make less sense. Some astronomers, however, believe it's possible that the magnetar was created by a white dwarf that pulled gas away from another nearby star. The added mass may have caused the dwarf star to turn into a magnetar. Whatever the explanation of the fast radio bursts in M81, astronomers believe there is definitely something strange going on. As time passes, hopefully, answers begin to come in. Asteroid impacts may spread life to other planets. Extraterrestrial life is something that has undoubtedly piqued everyone's interest at some point during their lifetime. Computer simulations now seem to suggest that microbes within rocks fired from Earth could possibly last long enough in space for them to research other places and planets within our solar system, meaning there is the possibility that we may be sending life to other planets unintentionally. The study has been submitted for publication in the journal Icarus and presents a new perspective on the panspermia hypothesis. The panspermia hypothesis suggests that there is life out there in the universe, and that life is moved or distributed through space via meteoroids, asteroids, comets, planetoids, and similar astronomical phenomena. This is purely a theoretical concept as we do not have a way to test it. However, some are suggesting that Earth is indeed playing a role in this. Scientists, such as Mauricio Reyes Ruiz, from the National Autonomous University of Mexico, used computer modeling to demonstrate the impact of an asteroid or comet hitting Earth. The idea is that with enough velocity, there would be so much debris released upon the impact that it would be kicked up into space. The research team found that, dependent upon the velocity and whereabouts on the planet it hit, the debris could reach to the orbits of the Moon, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and possibly even further. Their computer model only considered 30,000 years, as this means that any radiation damage could be taken into consideration, though this still means there could be a large amount of matter from Earth containing live bacteria in space. Planetary scientist, Dr. Simon O'Toole, from the Australian Astronomical Observatory said that the advances in computing technology are truly what facilitated this discovery. He said, "In the past, we didn't have the processing capacity to carry out these simulations beyond the Moon or Venus. We do not know how long this bacteria could survive in space, but this is an active field of research. Even if they do not survive long, it's baffling to consider microbes from Earth in another planet's orbit." Websites collect and analyze reports of mysterious aircrafts from around the world. The National Reporting Center in the United States, for example, receives thousands of reports each year, with over 5,000 reports received in 2020 alone. Similarly, other research organizations have come forward and said that they receive hundreds of reports each month. In addition to these organizations, there are many other websites and social media platforms where people can report their sightings, making it difficult to accurately estimate the total number of reports each year. Just recently, people across the world have reported strange objects flying to the ground, with many of the eyewitnesses saying that these objects remind them of planes. Due to the objects appearing as though they are on fire, it's caused witnesses to phone police stations and report their sightings, saying that they're worried that someone might be in trouble and may need some assistance. Oddly enough, in nearly all of these cases, the mysterious object is never identified. The eyewitnesses are never given an explanation for what they saw, and no one seems to know what the object was and what happened. This happened just recently above Kelowna, Canada. One eyewitness said the following: "I was loading up my van at around 7 in the morning, and as I'm loading up I heard a delivery driver go by. Then I heard him stop and back up, and as he backed up, I turned and looked at him. He pointed to the sky and asked if I could see the strange object. I turned around and looked and couldn't understand what it was. The object looked to be on fire with a trail of black smoke. I walked to a good spot where I could get a good view and took a picture. My first thought was a contrail, but the orange section of it never changed over time, which I thought it would as the sun came up." Oddly enough, various news agencies throughout the area wanted to get to the bottom of what this object was, and so reached out to professionals such as astronomers and weather experts. The H.R. MacMillan Space Center in Vancouver said that they had seen the mysterious object, but noted that their astronomers didn't think it was a meteorite or a satellite, saying that the way the object acted wasn't the same as a meteorite. The Space Center said that it was visible in the sky for too long for it to have been a meteor or a fireball, and that the light from meteors and satellite debris don't usually last for minutes. The Space Center also said that they hadn't tracked another above the area, and that there were no reports of fireballs from the International Meteor Organization. The International Meteor Organization is a non-profit organization that is dedicated to the scientific study of meteors and meteor showers. The organization was founded in 1988 and is headquartered in Belgium. The International Meteor Organization is made up of amateur and professional astronomers from around the world who work together to observe and study meteors. The organization maintains a global network of observers who record and report meteor observations using standardized methods and equipment. The data collected by the International Meteor Organization is used to study the distribution, motion, and composition of meteoroids, the small rocks and debris that produce meteors when they enter the Earth's atmosphere. The International Meteor Organization also coordinates and promotes public observing campaigns for major meteor showers, such as the Perseids, Leonids, and Geminids. These campaigns provide opportunities for amateur astronomers and the general public to observe and learn about meteors and contribute their observations to the organization's database. One police officer located in England said that they investigated one of these strange objects and noted that their team couldn't explain what it was. They posted photographs to social media in order to try and better understand what it was that they had witnessed, but said that all this did was cause more confusion. What's strange about these sightings is that when they are investigated by law enforcement, they never seem to be able to find any signs of wreckage or proof that the object had been above the area. The Kelowna International Airport said that they were aware of the object, but said that they were confused as to what it was and that they had no instrumentation that was able to track it. Despite the high number of reported sightings each year, the majority of these sightings are not investigated in detail and few are able to be definitively explained. This has led to ongoing debates about the nature and origin of mysterious sightings. These mysterious objects continue to capture our imagination, and the topic has always been a source of fascination for many people. One of the biggest reasons why these strange objects interest us is the mystery surrounding them. They are often seen as strange, and the objects that are sighted often defy explanation, which makes them intriguing. Many people believe that these strange aircrafts are evidence of advanced life forms, which would be a groundbreaking discovery if proven true. The idea of contact with intelligent beings from other planets is an exciting prospect that captivates the imagination. These sightings and encounters have often been linked to government officials, which adds another layer of intrigue to the phenomenon. Overall, These mysterious aircrafts interest us because they represent an unknown and potentially significant discovery that could have far-reaching implications for our understanding of the universe and our place in it. As of right now, people continue to report these strange burning objects in the sky. And even when investigated by officials in the area, it seems that we get no closer to understanding what they are and where they came from. The United States government has investigated mysterious aircrafts on multiple occasions. One of the most well-known investigations conducted by the U.S. government happened from 1952 to 1969. During this investigation, the Air Force looked into over 12,000 reported sightings, and the majority of these were explained as natural phenomena or misidentifications of aircraft, balloons, or other objects. However, there were several sightings that could not be explained and were labeled as unidentified.